In this section, we'll look at Hitler's rise to power in Germany. Hitler was born on April 20th, 1889 in the small Austrian town of Braunau on the Inn. His father, a civil servant, moved to Germany when Hitler was 3. Several of Hitler's siblings died, and Hitler, a bright student, became more sullen and withdrawn. His father was domineering and could be harsh, while his mom lavished love and praise on the boy. After leaving school in 1905, Hitler lived sort of a bohemian life in Vienna, financed by his mom. He worked part-time as a painter, selling watercolors of Vienna's sights. He applied to the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts, but was rejected. The school recommended Hitler study architecture, which did indeed interest him, but that required Hitler to return to school, and his mom, he just wasn't going to do it. And when his mom died from breast cancer, Hitler didn't have any money anyway. He was forced to live at this time as pretty much the equivalent of in homeless shelters with no money. Many historians believe that it was during this period when Hitler developed his rabid anti-Semitism. Vienna was a hotbed of anti-Semitism at the time. Others suggested it was later, as Hitler believed the Jews were behind what he saw as Germany's premature capitulation in World War I. In World War I, Hitler joined the German army and served as a runner, a dangerous job delivering messages between the trenches. Hitler was wounded in combat and was praised by his commanders. He even won the prestigious Iron Cross for his service. After the war ended, with Hitler upset, he moved to Munich. He remained in the army until he joined the Nazi Party in 1920. Hitler was a mesmerizing public speaker, first on soapboxes to people walking by, then to members of the party in their meetings and beer halls, and ultimately to thousands of followers, of course. Hitler knew when to pause for emphasis or when to raise his voice. He was a natural. He was charismatic as well. He emphasized German nationalism and anti-Semitism. Aiding Hitler's rise was a group of organized thugs known as brown shirts who intimidated opponents and voters. Many of them were angry World War I veterans, kind of like Hitler. In 1923, with the help of his brown shirts, often called stormtroopers, Hitler's followers attempted a coup of the Bavarian government in southern Germany. Hitler was assisted by the former World War I General Erich Ludendorff. The coup failed, and 16 Nazis and 4 police officers died. Hitler was arrested for treason and convicted in Munich and sentenced to 5 years imprisonment in Landsberg prison. There he received friendly treatment from the guards, who allowed him to keep up a steady correspondence with and visits from prominent Nazi supporters. While at Landsberg, Hitler dictated the first volume of his book Mein Kampf, or My Struggle. In the book, Hitler laid out his views and vision for Germany, a great nation of German blood at the center of Europe, free from the elements that brought the nation down, Jews and communists and the racially impure. Hitler promised revenge against Germany's enemies. The book quickly became a bestseller with all the discontent of the Weimar Republic. Hitler clearly hit a nerve. He ultimately was pardoned and let go in 1925. In 1926, Hitler published a second volume of the book and used it to help grow the Nazi movement. In Hitler's day, Darwinism and eugenics dominated scientific debate, and Hitler believed Northern Europeans, the Aryans, were a superior race of people. The Aryans were usually depicted as blonde and blue eyes, but regardless, they were of pure Northern European blood. The trouble with Germany, Hitler believed, was that the inferior people had dragged Germany down, most notably Germany's large Jewish population. Hitler also hated other non-Aryan races, such as the Slavs or the Gypsies and Africans. He also hated communists, which he frequently denounced, and he hated homosexuals, who he regarded as deviants. He had a lot of hate. When the Depression hit, Hitler's radical right Nazi party grew. Hitler moved to distance himself from the more overt, violent brown shirts and worked to sort of appear more of a traditional politician. At the time, the German government was led by Paul von Hindenburg, another World War I hero. Hindenburg didn't like Hitler, and indeed many of the educated upper class in Germany thought Hitler was vulgar and dangerous. But Hindenburg faced elections, and he was worried about his re-election. Believing that he could control Hitler, Hindenburg proposed to bring the Nazis into his conservative coalition, making Hitler a position of so-called chancellor. Hitler, as shown in this picture, sought to appear deferential to the famous Hindenburg to secure his position, but he obviously quietly harbored greater ambitions. Once chancellor, Hitler worked to consolidate the Nazis' power in the German legislature, the Reichstag. On February 27, 1933, however, a fire gutted the Reichstag building, probably set by a Dutch communist. The anger and fear the fire created allowed Hitler to get an emergency decree passed that suspended basic rights, he said, so he could protect the public safety and order. Hitler then began to use the decree to crack down on the communists and other political opponents. Soon, another act, the Enabling Act of 1933, allowed Hitler's cabinet the power to enact laws without the consent of the Reichstag for 4 years. In essence, the fire decree and the Enabling Act set the foundations for a dictatorship. Finally, in August 1934, Hindenburg died and his position of president was abolished, leaving Hitler the sole ruler. Hitler even made the army take a loyalty oath to him personally. This concludes the section on the rise of Hitler to power by 1933.